So talk to us about like the research and the idea. I mean, who better to create a masterclass on sex appeal? But talk to us about the idea and the creation of it.
Well, I was actually first on this show years ago when my book came out, The Game of Desire, which was 5 years ago now, which feels like a very bizarre thing to say. And so in essence, the masterclass it's like a collection of everything I've talked about for the past 20 years in 2 hours. It genuinely is everything I know about sex and seduction in 2 hours. So the first episode is just all about the spots, the positions, the ways of thinking about yourself, the new kinks you can invite into your world, the no's that you should be considering. And then episode 2 is all about sex appeal and seduction. So Jared helped to co-write episode 1 with me, which was really fun because we just took all of these sex courses from like these various sex experts. There was this sex expert, Kenneth Powers?
No, but I'll make a note of it.
He's fascinating. So I think he was like GQ sex expert for a while, and then Jared came back with all these new techniques. So it was like a joy.
You gotta try it out. Yeah, like, oh, you know what you're talking about? Let's find out.
The research for this sounds fun.
Yeah. For me, the thing about sex is like always, it's a long life. So we're exploring. So maybe somebody has a technique that I've never tried before. I'm like, oh, maybe let me see how that works out. It makes sense. And then I get to try it on Shan, and then she gets to tell me if it was good. Should we put it in the masterclass or not?
I think we talked about this in the class too, is the power of off-kilter touch. That's something that Jared does really, really well. And that essentially means you can't get bored of sex if you're being authentic and intuitive to the moment. And sometimes authentically, you're in a certain position where it's not natural to put your hand in the usual way. So you have to come from behind. So when you're responding to what's around you or how you feel or what the vibe is that day, the sex is always going to be different. And so off-kilter touch essentially means touching your partner in a way that you're like, oh, that's different. It may not be like usual, but it just wakes your body up and makes you think like, oh, like that was interesting.
Well, it grounds you. It's like it reminds you that this is real life, because it's a different touch. I know for me, what I get out of it, if I'm just going through the motions and like, oh, she likes to be grabbed this way or she likes to be held this way and this is comfortable. If I do that consistent enough, I kind of can drift mentally. But if I grab her in a way that's just like completely instinctual, that's different, that might be like weird, it kind of puts us in the moment of like, whoa, that was different. And then now we're connected.
Now you have to focus.
Yeah.
You really have like tangible to-do list, eye contact, how long to hold it, this sexy eye triangle. People want that. They're like, don't just tell me I need to make eye contact. Tell me how to do it and how long to do it and where to shift my eyes. Like, we really like the specificity of how to connect with somebody from across the room.
Because the dream is be people in the wild. But I think people are like, okay, I'm in the wild. Now what the fuck? So can you talk about some tips and tricks? Like, you've made it to the bar, you're out.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it is just making yourself approachable. We're not good actors. Leonardo DiCaprio is a good actor, but most of us are not good actors. So if internally you're thinking, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to be here, I feel awkward, as much as you're like, but I'm not showing it, yes, you are. So it really is about first starting off with yourself. And embodiment is the notion that the mind and the body work together and that there's actually no master and then there's no control panel, that they work intuitively in sync. And so sometimes if mentally you're like, I don't feel comfortable, moving your body can actually make that shift. And oftentimes when we want a different result, we have to change more than our mind. So if you're out and you want to invite touch, you want to invite dialogue, you want to invite connection, first think about, okay, how my body is. Like, am I, pelvis to pelvis with whoever it is that I want to connect with? Are my shoulders down? Is my purse up to indicate that I'm trying to leave right now? Or is my purse down? Am I smiling? Am I relaxed? Am I making eye contact? So going through a mental checklist that your body is communicating exactly what you want, that also too communicates to your brain, oh, this is like the mode that we're in right now. And there's something magnetic about somebody who is just having a good time. So it's just really important to make sure that first and foremost, and that we can all control that. I think the second thing is just there's all the tips I gave from the stripper. That, to me, she was such an illuminator. There's probably more strippers I can learn from him. Jared probably has a couple tips that he's learned from strippers before.
Probably.
But I think, like learning from the pros who like know how to approach people and who do it a lot. What do they do? What's worked best? What are their best practices? So definitely a lot of this is derived from pickup artists. A lot of it is derived from strippers and then just from everyday people who found their flow. Do you guys have a thing that you do when you're out, a line that you say?
I'm a big fan of eye contact, and I'll make
Yeah.
frequent eye contact, and I make a concerted effort to like smile during the eye contact, maybe the second or third time, because I don't want people to think they just happen to be in my eyesight. You know, I want them to know, like, approach me.
Or she's just like staring and then like thinking of something
licking her
else.
lips. I mean, I think the crossing the physical barrier is so important. If I meet somebody or I'm on a date with them, a first date, like I am clocking whether they have touched me, whether I've touched them. I think it is the most, and some people are just touchy.
yeah.
Some people are just naturally like that. But I think it's so important to touch someone to show you like that. Like, I don't mean, grope them, but playful on the arm, on the knee, and that feels scary to some people, right? Like, don't you think you could be like flirting, be like, oh my God, I touched a stranger, but that's what I think, how I express that I'm interested in somebody. Can we talk about NBT?
Yes.
Which is not a sex move.
Yes.
Or I guess it could be.
Going back to our stripper protocol.
Applicable in all areas of life.
Yeah. So this again is a stripper tip, which is NBT stands for never be typical. So always keeping the conversation interesting by talking about the finer, richer, more dangerous things of life. So financial splurges, vacations, decadent foods, fantasies, sex, and then keeping the conversation both weird and sexy. Okay. And so weaving the things together, right? Like I bring up the thing of like, if aliens were here, what kind of sexting they would have? What would be their favorite position? So yeah, strippers just know how to keep you excited. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, the edge of life. When we think about the topics we probably discuss on vacation, it probably is in that realm too, of like the non-typical dialogues, more about like the decadent side of life. So then why not weave that into your everyday interactions?
Totally. And if it's not natural to you, I mean, you've talked about this in your class. There's such a rise in people just talking about using AI to write these type of things for you. If it's not totally natural to you, I don't know, have AI write a couple what if aliens had sex, what position would that be? Because that wouldn't naturally come to me, but I would love that conversation,
Yeah. And again, this is with your partner in your marriage or whatever, or flirting with someone at a bar. I like this very like, don't be basic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually say that there's like 5 levels of communication that go from facts, routines, opinions, feelings, and then diversity of thought, which means like letting somebody into your inner world where like things collide, they don't always make sense, you're questioning things. And so in most long-term relationships, people actually stay between levels 1 and 3. They're just communicating about routines and facts and opinions, but they don't talk about feelings. They don't talk about their inner world because you just get into that rut. So almost especially in long-term relationships, should you go by the NBT rule?
I think it can be very natural for people with children to only talk about the children, or even me and Ashley. Like, we have to remember to like joke around about stuff, because it's so much about like the tour and work and 2 episodes a week and the guests and what's it going to be about. And like, we have to remember that we're like friends.
Yes.
And we don't just run businesses
I love the
together.
shrug with it. We're friends.
Most days.